It's Tuesday. Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm swell. How you doing, Bob? I love how we come right out of people are waiting.
Yes, people are waiting. People are waiting. Here we go. It's Taco Tuesday. Isn't it wonderful?
Oh, yeah, sure. Why, did Trump say anything against it?
Yes,
Does anybody care?
We're going to extend it indefinitely. So 2 weeks ago we had it, and now the good part is in 2 weeks from now it's really Taco Tuesday because it's Cinco de Mayo.
Oh,
so that'll be the best Taco Tuesday.
So those of you who imbibe, that's like July 4th.
Yes, it's also like today, and we'll get into this, but it's also a national holiday in that it's Whitney Matheson's birthday. So
there you go. That's right.
We will sing her praises later. It's Tuesday. We have a slew of guests tonight. We're gonna have a threesome of comics folks gonna join us. You heard me. Don't worry about it. We're gonna talk about Real Life Comix. We're gonna talk about the difference between comics and comics. We're gonna talk about why this book is and all kinds of stuff. We have the two editor co-creators and the publisher as well. It is two of their first time on the show, and it is Dean's 15th or 18th time. I don't know. We love Dean on the show.
If Dean appears 2 more times on the SquadCast, we get to put him on the Stephen Colbert show. So we're getting there.
Well, that's good. So we only have to do that in the next 3 weeks.
Well, yeah, that's the downside.
Maybe he can pay to be on the Byron Allen show.
You know that show reruns all the time. Now I don't watch it because it's dull, and when it's not dull, it's boring.
Right.
But some of the reruns that they do in any given day, they're like 10 years old.
Yes. That's what we're going to get, I'm pretty sure. Because Byron Allen was a comedian, and then he got money and became unfunny.
He did become unfunny. He became very wealthy.
He's very wealthy.
And could have actually purchased CBS for himself if that's what he wanted.
Yes. Well, anyway. All right, let's talk about some comics news before we bring our guests in. I think everybody's here in the backstage, but I want to talk about a couple of things. Mad Cave announced some layoffs yesterday, and this, we talked about it, off air, and I talked about it a little bit on social media. We were. Here's my thoughts. My thoughts are good people losing jobs sucks. And the folks who lost their jobs are friends of ours, most of them. We already know them, and they are good people, and they do a good work. I think that and so the Mad Cave things were two senior editors and the director of marketing sales. I'm not sure exactly what Maya was doing, but she was doing a lot of good work there. Publishers letting go of a critical juncture between creators and corporate is not conducive to making good comics. And that's my point. My point is that the letting go of editors doesn't make comics better.
Well, no, not necessarily unless they're bad editors.
Okay. But this is not letting go of people because they're bad. This is a cost.
That's right. Exactly right. Exactly right. On the heels of the Marvel situation. Right. Whoa.
Right. Making good comics and getting people to buy them is the magic recipe to success. If you want success in this industry, you make good comics and find a way to get people to buy them. Those are the two things. There's not an answer, necessarily an easy answer to either of those tasks, but that is the magic recipe. If you can make good comics,
I can give you the history on that. It's very brief. I can give you the history on how we got to that point. It's very brief.
Okay, very brief.
Editors establish relationships with talent and vice versa. And that's wonderful. Working together, you don't have to be best of friends. You can even be enemies as long as you can work together and bring out the best. An editor talent relationship, let's say there's 3 people working on the book, is 1 + 1 + 1 = 4. It's the Beatles.
Right.
You really need to have a good editor. When you change editors capriciously, you undermine that. When you eliminate good editors and you don't replace them with good editors, then you don't have that bond anymore. It's the editor's job to represent the company to the talent. The talent wonders, why the hell do you do all this goofy shit? And vice versa. Except that, the publishers don't think of talent as goofy. They think of them as children. I do neither.
I agree. I mean, I think that what people like Mad Cave could focus on is doing a better job of getting people to buy them. Like, that's the piece that's missing. They are making good comics for the most part. We need to get more people to buy them. And, the overall shitty economy is 100% a factor in all of this, in the cost of production of comics and everything.
Absolutely. And the distribution costs.
It can't be an excuse. I had
no, look at how we started. We started during the Depression.
Sure. Well, I think that economies of scale don't work as well there. Like the cost of things were just so different, and it's just the wealth inequality, as much as it is a crutch in many ways of discussion, it is in fact real, and it is staggering.
It's the Pacific Ocean. That's roughly how big and deep it is.
Yeah. One of the other things, I went into my comic shop this week, and so I'm just gonna put this out there. I went into my comic shop this week, and then my local dealer asked me, "Hey, you still want everything Ignition?" Because I had told him everything that's Ignition Press put on my pull list. Whatever's coming out from Ignition Press, I want to get it. And I said, yes, it's all still been very good. I'm still very excited about the things. Every book has been worth the read. And he said, I like what they're doing too. I'm gonna keep buying them for you, but I'm liking what they're coming out. I'd be more willing to. I like the way that they're producing it. I'd be more willing to buy 10, 15 copies of that book than a Mad Cave book. And that's the words he said, like 2 days before this Mad Cave layoff happened. And that's a change.
It's his fault.
No. I'm not saying it's his fault. What I'm saying is that there has been a change in what's coming from Mad Cave, and that people are noticing it. Like 2 years ago, they were super hot. Everything they had a lot of new stuff coming out.
Yep.
They're and I think that they're still doing well with the licensed stuff.
Well, right now they have the Phantom license, which has never made people any serious money since we invaded Vietnam. But the fact of the matter is, Reggie Hudlin of movie director fame and of Milestone Comics fame is now producing and directing and writing a new Phantom TV series.
I did not know that.
That was announced I think it was announced. That happened like last week.
Okay. Well,
and I firmly believe
it didn't happen.
But I firmly believe that somewhere in my rat brain it was physically announced.
Okay.
Reggie's a wonderful guy. His work truly speaks for itself.
Sure.
But we had a wonderful bonding moment in San Diego, so I'm particularly fond of him.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I like the first volume that Ray Fawkes wrote of the new run. I enjoyed it. But they also have Flash Gordon. They also have Dick
Yeah.
Tracy. They also have Gatchaman. They there's tons of stuff. There's the Speed Racer. I think they're doing Speed Racer. Yes, they're doing Speed Racer.
They're part of like Paper Cuts.
Well, Paper Cuts is part of them. Yes, they bought Mad Cave bought Paper Cuts, and Paper Cuts is doing great stuff. We had Jimmy and Amber on last week. Last month.
Absolutely. I was just wondering. I don't recall seeing or hearing about any cuts over at Paper Cuts.
Well, I haven't heard any about Paper Cuts, but what I did find out also is that Lauren is no longer there in Maverick.
No kidding.
Yeah, I think that happened in January, but that was again. And Lauren Height Susan, for those people who are watching, it was the editor of Maverick, and she was on the show, and she's brilliant and a huge advocate for that genre or that readership level. She's that's disappointing. So,
well, it seems like we're going through a bad phase in the industry.
Well. But Tiny Onion is hiring people, so and giving people promotions. So, and that's the weird thing. It's not it's a comics studio almost. Like, I guess there are multiple publisher outlets for what James is doing at Tiny Onion, and I love that. And I love that they're building a company within that. For their outputs. I don't know. It's I'm looking forward to, and we're going to talk about this again later, but I am looking forward to Ithacon this weekend and getting to kind of immerse myself and ourselves in the world of being physically in a place. It's like going to the Russian baths with Dean. Is what it's like. You just feel comfortable and you get clean and you're just fully immersed. I'm enjoying. You guys can't see my face right now, so I'm enjoying.
I have so many responses to that my brain implodes. There's so many.
We're going to talk about the Russian baths. Don't worry about it. There's more to Russian baths on this show than you're going to expect, but we're going to get to it.
Okay.
All right, so I want to get to our guests because it's going to be fun. But I do want to highlight this. This is a good note in comics news and creator news. Last Friday, if you didn't watch it, and if you are a fan of Jeopardy and you missed Friday's Jeopardy, go back and watch it. It's on Hulu or wherever you can get your stuff. One of the contestants on Jeopardy was it was Teenie Howard.
Yeah,
so Teenie Howard was on Jeopardy, and she didn't win. I'm going to spoil that, but she did a good job. She did get the final Jeopardy question correct, and I don't know if you can see this, but if you look on your screen, it says what? Read more comics.
There you go. Yeah, Teenie.
And Ken agreed that we should read more comics.
Teenie is at least the second comics writer to appear on Jeopardy. Elliot Magan was on decades ago.
The old Jeopardy.
I don't think it was the old. I think it was the old, but not the old.
It was the old with Alex.
Yeah, I think it was with Alex.
Not the pre Jeopardy.
Right. Well, it wasn't pre Jeopardy. Anyway,
the original.
As I recall, when Elliot left, he owed them money.
Well, as I recall. Well, I don't. You do know that our good friend Tom Zoller, America's Tom Zoller, was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yes, and I recall that. I don't think he got the million, did he?
He didn't, but he did make money.
All right. Well, that's good. That's good for him. It's good for the government. I'm happy.
But yeah, so I wanted to just highlight our motto of read more comics is out there. It was on national television, and good for Teenie, and we need to get her on the show. And
we absolutely do. I am a fan.
I am as well. We should I'll work on that one. But we're going to talk about a new Kickstarter that is currently being funded that I am very excited for. We have Dean Haspiel, we have Doug Latino, and we have Eli Schwab waiting to come in, and we're going to bring them in. We're going to bring them in a little different fashion because there's three people who are just so immensely talented and have such a wide variety of production and work. We're not going to do our typical thing, but I want to let everybody know what this Kickstarter is about. So we're going to start off by having you guys see what the trailer is. And what is this about? This is what it's about.
Damn, if you just held that last shot and you kept on going up, you could have had Jackie Gleason on the promo. That would have been beautiful.
That's the first time Dean has seen that video.
That is not true. But I was thinking, Doug, how many times did you do the flip through the book section? Because you pretty much showed off every story. That was pretty good, man.
Mm-hmm. I had to practice a couple times.
That is a lot, and I enjoyed your cat as well. So, hi, Doug. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm so happy to be here, you guys. Thank you.
Oh, we're happy to not only have you guys here, even Dean, who's kind of stuck here, but to bring attention to a project that some non-New Yorkers might just ignore because it's New York and they don't care about New York.
Well, just so you know, Eli's a Californian.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I did live in New York.
How did that? Let's start there. How does Cosmic Lion Productions from LA get involved in this New York centric book?
Well, I am from the East Coast originally, and I have lived in New York City for one single year, January to December of that year, when I got hired and then fired from a job. But I worked with Doug on Wait, It Gets Worse, his amazing book with Gideon Kendall, the anthology, of which I just learned you guys are making a new issue. Super sick. So, I think Doug and Dean had this idea years ago, and they were passing it back and forth, and I'll let them tell that story. But Doug, they brought it to me, and just because I had this place in my heart for New York City, I went there all the time as a kid. And so I was just like, absolutely, let's do this. They told me who wanted to be a part of the book, and I was like, there's no way
Who
I
doesn't
cannot
want to
do
be
this.
part of the book? I mean,
I know.
like, who's not in this book? I think me. That's about it.
me, I'm not in it. But
Okay,
you don't go
well,
up to Connecticut.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've had a bunch of people reach out to me after this and be like, hey, why don't you tell me about the book? And I'm like, hey, man, we got like 50, 60 people. So
Well, I lived in New York. I work in New York.
there you go.
Next
Next issue.
So
I also know all the words to Harlem Nocturne.
Okay.
We may
Oh,
do
There are no words. There are no words. To
One
Harlem
person got it. Thank you, Doug.
Nocturne.
we may do a volume 2.
well, I hope you do. I
Well,
hope there's more than a volume 2.
Yeah.
well, it
Let's
really
talk
was.
about this.
Yeah, it did kind of take on a life of its own after, we in the beginning there, and we can certainly tell you about that if you're interested. But
We
yeah,
certainly will.
it kind of goes beyond our expectations, that's for sure.
Well, what you've got is 216 pages, 51 short stories, in a sprawling high voltage memoir graphic novel anthology celebrating the grit, glory, and absurdity and heart of life in New York City. I mean,
That's a mouthful.
it sounds like everything Dean ever wanted to do.
Except autobio.
Except for the outer space sex. We forgot the outer space sex.
I'm sure that I'm
Mark.
gonna scroll through while we talk for a minute.
That's
There-
what
there's
it's about.
actually there's actually a big debate about that going on in the scientific community right now about how you would have sex in a space capsule.
Oh, you mean like astronaut
Wait,
sex?
it's
Astronaut
happened.
sex. Yeah, well, we think it's happened.
It
I
has
mean,
to.
that's an anthology title
Like
right
that.
there.
Listen, that had to have happened.
Too bad that's Clay Wilson's no longer with us.
At least according to Brian Vaughn, it definitely happened.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we're scrolling through the Kickstarter images right now, and we have
Yes.
what Doug and I started off with was a modest list of 30 contributors because we're trying to figure out the budget and the size, and we figured we'd have 1 to 5 page stories. We could maybe try to recruit 30 cartoonists. And when I say cartoonist, I do mean writer artist, a single person, because it's easier to get a cartoonist to do a story. It's harder to find, an artist for a writer, unless the writer is bringing the artist.
Right.
And then eventually we started to do that. And that was a little tricky, but we had a lot of great collaborations that would never otherwise exist. And then it spun out to ultimately 51 stories by 66 creators for the first volume. And yes, when people heard about it, they were pissed off that they weren't invited. We did invite some people that did turn us down. I think it was largely because of deadline, kind of a thing.
That's what they say.
Yeah. But, or some people felt like they didn't have a real life story to tell, which is crazy. Of course you do, because we also reached outside of the cartoonists that are known for doing memoir, So we wanted to also, like, we got Gil Roth, who does the Virtual Memories podcast, to write and draw a 2-page real life story. And he's barely ever drawn a comic. I mean, he's written, and he certainly is an orator and a great storyteller. But like, we did try to like not go for what you would totally expect. There are some people that are like, absolutely, of course, and then there was some unexpected choices.
Inspired choices. Inspired.
Oh, I think so. I think so.
Absolutely.
And if I may, for 1 second, if I may, for 1 minute, just because I wanted to respond to a couple of things you said earlier on before we get into the chunk of this. So, you mentioned that I have been on the show so many times that 2 more times I can get on Colbert. Well,
Yes.
Colbert is about to end his show. Okay.
Yes.
So I don't know what you mean by that. Then I think you're trying to send me a message.
That's
Number
the joke.
one. Number two, Colbert leads to Whitney Matheson, whose birthday is today, and I know you
Yes.
mentioned her. And I did take her out to lunch to Veselka this afternoon, and we bounced around a little bit. And Veselka has now gone back to 24-hour status on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I believe, or at least on the weekends, which is really cool because one of the things we lost at COVID was the 24-hour, diner, as it were.
Yeah.
But to bring it back to Colbert,
jacket. You might get a smoking jacket after that many appearances on
I
the
get a
show.
smoking jacket for being on Pop Culture Squad. But to bring it back to Colbert, who's ending in May, I believe, next month. I don't want to
21st.
go on Byron Allen. I don't want to be
No.
a Byron Allen
No.
rerun. No.
That was
What I
good.
want to do is I want to bring back Arsenio Hall, man. Let's bring back Arsenio.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
I'm going to
Should
start
do
that
it.
campaign tonight.
Arsenio was on Colbert's show like last week or 2 weeks ago or something.
He's got a new book, a memoir.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's working.
Dave was on last week too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a sort of a funny funereal thing, but but it was the first time that the two of them were ever on a show together, I think, and it was a really interesting conversation because Arsenio was actually like the wizened old man, who's really used to being fired from late night television for stupid reasons.
Oh, totally. He was on Conan as well. He did a great bit
that was really good
with Conan O'Brien. But the other thing I wanted to respond to your hot topics was how a lot of comic book companies are firing their editors or staff members.
I won't say a lot, but
I feel like it's coming. I feel like there's more coming because of the nature of companies right now and what's going on in the world. But I was listening to Bill Burr, the comedian, I think it was yesterday, and he had a great idea. He's like, stop firing your editors, okay? Fire the CEOs because they're the ones making the bulk of the money. So if you fire the CEO, you actually have more money, right? Plenty of money. So I think we should fire CEOs.
This is the point that I was making. You thank you for listening, and for making the point that the issue is not that there's not money. The issue is that people are hoarding money.
Thank you.
Because people are spending.
Oh yeah, the money's out there. The gap between rich and poor is no longer a gap. It hasn't been a gap for a long time.
Eli, are you hoarding money, Eli?
I have to. Yes, I am actually. It's all back here. It's in my 8-track player back there.
Yeah.
This is gonna be such a good book. I'm very excited for it. But let's talk for a minute. Yes, we can talk about it now. Let's talk for a minute about the options in terms of what your rewards are, because there's Mike's going to be excited about the last one. So stop laughing.
Sorry, do you gonna pull it up on the? Okay.
Okay. So we have the first reward you can get for this book is the D Train, which is a digital copy of this great, fantastic book, and it's of course very affordable.
Perfect place
for digital copy. The Big Apple, which I have backed, is the digital plus the hardcover of this, which is a nice size hardcover. I'm looking forward to it. Beautiful cover. So who did the art on the cover, guys?
Peter and Maria Hoy.
Awesome.
LA, that's an LA and New York combination too. It's a brother-sister team. Pretty unusual, I think, and they're pretty amazing.
And it's a full wraparound cover too.
What you mean? It's a full wraparound cover that if you buy the what is it? The Big Apple? No, I'm sorry, the Knish version. You can get an actual print, a limited edition print of the back of the cover.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
And we send you some brown mustard with it. Sorry.
It's also Knish. Well? So is it greasy?
It's greasy, full of potatoes too.
It's what you add. You have to add the grease to it. That's right. Little nose grease, just a little nose.
Oh, okay. I got plenty of that.
Yeah.
Then we have the Bodega version, which is Real Life Comix bundled with 3 other New York Comics, Cosmic Lion books, Bob Figgerman's Printopia, Tony Wolf's Tales from the Wolf, Doug Latino and Gideon Kendall's Wait, It Gets Worse. So you get those 3 books plus the Real Life Comix.
Absolutely.
Then there's a New York State of Mind, which is an option. You can get is it the Zoom call, right?
Yes.
You get the digital, the book, the print, plus we do a Zoom party where we play some games, but a New York City based theme game, but also we encourage people, kind of like a campfire, like a digital campfire. We encourage people to tell their New York story.
I like that phrase. I like that phrase a lot. Digital campfire. That's really really good. But Billy Joel isn't involved with it, is he?
The what?
Billy Joel isn't involved with that level, is he?
Oh no. Sorry.
He doesn't show up. Okay, no, don't apologize. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So So if this isn't enough for you, and you are that CEO who has just wants the once in a lifetime experience, there is another option. It is the Schwitz, which is the bodega. Plus, when you're in New York City, date will be agreed upon. Dean and Doug will take you on a date to the Banya and pierogies. This is a penthouse product here, a one-of-a-kind experience. So you get the books and the baths with Dean and Doug. I think
the books in the back. What is a penthouse product? What does that mean? I just noticed that for the first time.
Who wrote that?
It has nothing to do with Bob.
I think I wrote that. I think it's from a podcast called The Doughboys. I don't know why. I think maybe that was a filler, but they call penthouse products these amazing, like a top tier, a high grade. Yeah.
Wow, I never heard that.
Oh, yeah, Norva. That's great.
When I was in college and my dorm room was on the 6th floor of a 6th floor building, I'm like, oh, we live in the penthouse, you know.
You absolutely do.
Sure.
I thought of Bob Guccione and Penthouse and thinking there was some innuendo.
I mean, it is the baths, so who knows what's going on.
And we have I know of 3 choices that I like to go to, either the 10th Street Bathhouse, the Russian Turkish Bathhouse on 10th Street between 1st and A in Manhattan, or there are 2.
Is that your first love?
That I've been going since I was 16 years old. That was my father's gift to me on my 16th birthday. But the problem was that he sent me on the only men's day. A lot of naked men, man. A lot of. I sat. My back was sat against the wall for about 4 hours. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I only went to the co-eds after that, you know, because you can always get a good side boob, butt, you know, all kinds of, you know, fun natural kind of, you know, sightings, as it were.
Sure.
But and I said but B-U-T, not B-U-T-T.
Okay, right.
There's also in Brooklyn, there's a Brooklyn Banya, which is really cool on Coney Island Avenue. And then there's the Mermaid Spa, which is also great. And I think all 3 places do provide pierogies and or dumplings of some kind. So we will choose accordingly.
There has to be some sort of boiled pasta,
it's all boiled,
dough.
Right? Like
some boiled dough somewhere.
I think you need Arnold Schwarzenegger there, though. I will go to any Schwitz with Arnold Schwarzenegger because of the movie he did with Jim Belushi. It was just
boy. I tell you though, when the 10th Street, you know, the Russian Turkish Bathhouse on 10th Street, I have met many celebrities there. Was it John Amos from Good Times? And
I don't
he used to go there all the time, and he would just sit slumped like a bedrock, just like wouldn't move. And then like I remember one time sitting next to him and being like, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?" You know, and he just kind of grunted and And then I asked him a question or something, and he went, And it kind of reminded me of that scene in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you know, where Jack Nicholson sits down next to the big Indian guy, and he both talk, but then he gives him some gum, and he goes, juicy fruit. And he starts to talk, and it's like he gives him another piece of gum so he can hear him talk again, and then eventually he opens up. And it's just
did you give him the fruit? Did you have the juicy fruit?
I didn't have juicy fruit.
This is your problem.
Oh, Jesus.
I know.
There's so many innuendos everywhere. You did have your juicy fruit there. I don't.
There used to be a deli near me. It was in Westport, so it's about 2 miles away. Jason Robards lived there. Every time I went into that deli, it was a good deli, he had the same table there, and if there was anybody around him, he was always talking. And I admired Robards as an actor. I think he was a brilliant actor. But the fact that he could tell stories and eat big-ass deli sandwiches at the same time, that was remarkable.
He's a very talented man. Like, when I was a kid, the first few times I saw Jason Robards in a movie, I was like, whatever. He just seemed like I didn't really get it, right? And it wasn't until I saw Once Upon a Time in the West, right? The Sergio Leone movie. Yeah. And there's like 3 major stories that collide into that movie. And one of them is the Jason Robards story. And the way we are introduced to Jason Robards in the movie is that you're in a bar, like in the middle of the West somewhere. And then you hear outside like some horses in a carriage coming to a halt, right? And then you hear some arguing, and then you hear fist fighting, and then gunshots, and then bodies hitting the ground, right? That's all outside, and they're all looking at the door, everybody in the bar. Suddenly, Jason Robards just comes walking in, and he looks at the bartender, he nods, and the bartender doesn't even say anything. He just grabs a big jug of whiskey. And that's when Jason Robards lifts his hands to get the whiskey, and they're handcuffed. And he drinks the whiskey, and all you're thinking is, he just killed all these, what? He must have been killed a whole bunch of sheriffs and cops or bounty hunters or someone out there, and his hands were still handcuffed, and he did it. That's how badass Jason Robards is.
That's great.
He
played Ben Bradley, right? In All the President's Men.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was in.
Yeah. He's been in more movies than you can imagine, and a wider range, a very wide scope, science fiction and certainly westerns and action movies and very dramatic roles. Wonderful on stage, just an incredible man.
He's awesome.
I want to make a point. There's a great comment in the comment section by probably the best artist who is like either on the show or watching this show, and they said that I bet Mamdani would love the book, and I think that's fair. So what is it about New York that makes it conducive to telling stories in a graphic fashion?
Well,
good question, Bob, because that was one of the things we were wrestling with, which was what makes a New York story. Like, if you can tell me something and then I say, could it have happened in Michigan? Yeah, it's a New York story, but what is special? What makes it extra? And that was something when we were, I believe in 90% of great directing is great casting, and I feel like it's true for artists. For an anthology, you invite someone and you see what they got, right? And like, we would get some pitches of a couple of different story ideas, and we would go, and we're not so sure that works, and that was something me and Doug had to think about. Like, we would consult each other and be like, well, what do you think? Do you think this works as a New York story or not? And what makes a great New York story? I think your mileage may vary, but I think one of the things we discovered is that there's a lot of intersections that happen. A lot of things can happen in a New York story at the same time, and then it feels like it's not real. And sometimes, and Vito Del Sante, his story is called New York is not, or New York City is not real. And I agree with that, even though I'm a New Yorker,
Yeah, well, I spent most of my life in New York or going to New York, and I would agree with you wholeheartedly. If anybody who's not from around New York wants to get that feeling before they read the book, and I highly recommend this. There's a movie from the late 40s. It's streaming everywhere called The Naked City. There used to be a TV show that was quite good. The movie is a hell of a lot better. It's 2 hours. Every minute of it is filmed in Manhattan, in New York, around the Brooklyn Bridge. Fabulous story, both visually and writing, and I'm done babbling.
No, and just to compliment for the double header of that night of watching Naked City, I would also suggest a movie that's not as well known called The Incident. And The Incident stars Charlie Sheen in his first role, and he and another actor get on a subway train and terrorize the train for the entire movie. It's kind of like a play. But in the train, you meet all kinds of people that are New Yorkers or visiting or from there. And it's an intense, great movie that is like a play and tells a lot of New York stories in this one contained space.
No, that's true. It represents the subways the way New Yorkers fear it does. It's not real because it's not that bad. But you don't talk about, well, I got on the subway and nothing happened. No, you're going to talk about the weird shit. So.
Exactly.
And there are a couple. There are several different kinds of New York stories. There's the encounter. Just where it's a brief. It can be a 20-second thing, a brush with celebrity. Just a really chancy, serendipitous kind of thing that can happen here, which I think we all agreed like that happens more often in New York just because of the velocity of movement, the different cultures brought together, the different strata of social, income and ethnicity, all that kind of stuff. So we have probably a handful of those kind of stories, which I tend to actually like because that's kind of where the idea came from. It's that around that, thing of where your friend's telling you this unbelievable story that, you're not going to believe what happened to me today, but man, it can only happen in New York. Like just literally that, and those are usually the ones where it's just kind of this crazy coincidence or whatever, this fateful thing that happens. And so we have, most of the stories are not those, but I feel like those really pepper the book with some really interesting, encounters, as for lack of a better term.
Yeah, no.
New York gives you so many stories just walking around for a day. If you had something really interesting, really heavy that you want to tell all your friends, and you were in, say, Detroit, by the way, a city I really like, people would be talking about that story forever. In New York, it's Tuesday.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Which
mean,
I actually use that exact phrase in my editor's note, Mike. So, it's literally, I say it's a Tuesday. We kind of discuss those questions, and listen, there are stories technically, if you wanted to really, parse them, maybe it could have happened. Like maybe you could have run into somebody in Chicago or, a character or whatever that, but New York just has so many of those kinds of characters, so many of those kinds of collisions that it just happens here more often. And frankly, there's a bit of editorializing. I'll be honest, from my perspective anyway, we've kind of decided these are only in New York stories. These are things that can, only happen here.
And there's a visual language to like a New York story as well that you can see kind of links everything together as well. It's like the street, the subway, the apartment, the high rise. Like you can see these things that immediately put you in the place, and it. If these stories were spread across LA, it'd just be 150. It would be 50 different disparate locations that you can't really put your foot on. But around
and they all look alike.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And in New York City, it's like you can get a feel for it, or you can say, I'm at 6th and Bleecker and this happened, and someone can put, know exactly where you are. They can go right there and they can think about it. And so it just makes it even that more enthralling. But I think, I don't know, we keep wrestling with this thing. Like, is it going to be good for people who have never been to New York, who don't know anything about New York? And I think the thing is, it will be, because these are these places that, and these are the kind of stories that just excite you and light you up and make you be happy to even have life and have stories. And so it's like, go to New York, it's in Tourism Bureau, call us.
Yeah. And we do have some people that are not New Yorkers that are in the book. I mean, David Collier, is a famous Canadian cartoonist. Keith Knight. I don't think Keith ever lived here, but he lives in North Carolina. We have some stories about visiting New York. Noah Van Sciver was a story about a trip to New York. He was doing some legwork for a comic he was working on. So we have a mix of that as well. You didn't have to be a native New Yorker. The truth be told, Dean is the only born native New Yorker of the three of us. I actually grew up outside of Chicago. I've been
where?
You said Chicago.
Rockford, the way I said Chicago. Yeah.
Rockford. No, I'm just saying Mike's our Chicago resident. So
okay.
Half Chicago, half New York.
Yeah, Chicago. Yeah. Actually, Rockford. If you know it. It's. But I've been here almost like 35 years now. So I think that's another thing that I love about New York, is that you can maybe not be born here, but you can be called a New Yorker after a certain amount of time. I've kind of claimed you have to have ridden the Coney Island the cyclone and the Coney Island before you can ever claim. That's
your final initiation, right? Is to survive the cyclone.
Survive is the optimum word there.
That's right.
Oddly enough, I find that to be the Staten Island ferry, which brings the. I mean, that's so New York, even though you wind up in Staten Island, which brings the question of, are any of your stories set in Staten Island, the forgotten borough?
Well, I can answer that. Dean's shaking his head the right way. There are not stories set in Staten Island. We did hit all the boroughs, but that one. We actually have
intentionally.
Yeah.
We're honoring its invisibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so it is. We have a map that's going to run.
Nice try.
Yes.
I just want to say both my sons were born. Two of my sons were born in Staten Island.
Yeah.
Really?
No, they weren't.
Do they know that?
Do they know
Have you
that?
ever told them? Yeah.
Well,
Like
Staten
some-
Island always. When I talk about the uniqueness of New York, I always include Staten Island. There's a couple guys that still trap beaver on Staten Island, like it's New York City. Okay, you see deer when you go to Staten Island. I was there last
That's
summer.
true.
I saw
That is
deer
true.
on Staten Island. So it's like,
Oh, sure.
Here in Brooklyn too.
In 1976, I was walking across the middle of Staten Island. That's a whole nother story. And I encountered farmland.
yes.
Now, Staten Island has the same street signs as Manhattan, you know? And back then it was yellow, black on top. And there's a farm. There's like cows and horses.
Right.
And I'm in New York City.
Right. Yep.
You know, and that is the definition of a mind fuck right there.
There are 12 golf courses in New York City. Actually, that's another one that I pull out sometimes. Like,
Well, that's interesting.
it's just a pretty diverse place, and that sort of gets circled back around. I think the question is like, why New York, and how does New York qualify? It's just because there's so many levels of New York, and areas and geography and topography and just everything you can imagine. Like New York has it all. It's not just skyscrapers.
No, though some of the skyscrapers are great, including the one on the cover of your book, which, by the way, was designed by Chicagoan. But
Really, the Flatiron Building was designed
yeah,
by Chicago?
yeah, it is thought of as one of the most important and influential examples of Chicago architecture, and it's in New York, it's in Manhattan, and I love that Daniel Burnham and his company, my favorite architect. But we're not here to talk about architecture. We should, but we're not.
I believe, and I could get this wrong, but the term 23 Skidoo
Yes, that comes from
is
Flatiron.
because of the Flatiron Building, right?
Mm.
Because what would happen is back in the day when men wore hats and women only wore skirts, and it'd be lunchtime, and men would go get their sandwiches, and on a windy day in the city, because of the way the building was like kind of like an arrow on the street corner there, they'd be standing on the side, and the wind would blow up all the ladies' skirts while they would watch, and cops would walk around and like with their sticks say like Skidoo, 23 Skidoo or something like that.
They'd shoo them away. It's called the 23 Skidoo because it's on 23rd Street.
Right, and they would shoo them away from ogling the ladies with their skirts blowing up like that.
Wow.
See, we're educating Eli.
I did not
Wait,
know that.
wait a moment. So Marilyn Monroe and Tom Ewell were on 23rd Street?
No. That was, and it's funny because my father knew Marilyn Monroe the last 8 years of her life, and if you look up James Haspiel, you'll see. But that was somewhere else. But in fact, they did shoot it live, but the movie, they didn't really get what they wanted. So there might be technically one shot that was at wherever they shot that outside in New York. The rest of it was done in studio. Anyway. Not 23rd Street, though. Sorry.
A different Skidoo.
So, oh my God,
That's right.
this book is fantastic. I mean, let's be honest.
Agreed.
I'm scrolling through it just while we're talking, and one of the things that in the comments. So we did have a comment question for Eli. It says, "What's your favorite part of the book?" And Eli responded, instead of waiting for me to get the question up here so we can tell it to everybody. But one of the things you said there is the flow of the book is engrossing. And I agree with that. How did you guys, put together, decide what was that process like for you?
Well,
I mean,
it's two-sided.
Was it your first like real anthology type thing? I mean, I know you've done a bunch of stuff before, but this is like a big book.
Talk to Doug, because it started with trying to figure out, or getting stories, right? But I wasn't thinking about how to put them together whatsoever. I knew that would have to come. That's totally a part of it. And like Doug, it was up to him. I mean, not up to him. He decided to take the lead, put these things together. And in fact, he even made a dummy copy so we could look at it, like a book. And
No.
we disputed on a couple other things. I had no dispute. None. He did a great job putting this together.
Yeah, it just reminded me I wanted to say with the video that was shown up front, that is a paperback. The book that's coming out and that you would pay for Kickstarter is a hardcover book. So I just wanted I meant to say that right away. So it was something that we did labor, kind of toil over to how to best organize the book. I tend to lean towards chapters or themes. This is kind of how I think, how my brain works. The book that I did that Eli mentioned, Wait, It Gets Worse, is basically there's 8 chapters. Work, there's a crime chapter, there's a family and home. Like it just made sense to do that book that way. For this book, we just felt like it wouldn't be that great that we have 3.5, maybe 4 subway stories, 3 for sure, and there's one that mentions the subway and has a little bit of taking place in the subway, but it's not a subway story. But call it 4. We have 4 subway stories. It just didn't feel right to have that, be a chapter. And then how would you begin to sort of, but definitely tried to do it. I tried to look at what would the themes be. I even put together an alternative table of contents. So even after the book was laid out, and I'll mention how I thought about that, just to try to begin to even just have another way to organize it, right? There are some big moments. We have a COVID story. We have a 9/11 story. We have a blackout story. We have a blizzard story. Like, the moment, like I named that one, like, when time stopped, or there was some name to kind of come up with that would capture those 4 very disparate things, right? But so we just decided, and really, Dean, you helped me with this, is it's an anthology. It's about New York. There's not a better sort of format, frankly, or not a better subject for the format of anthology than New York City and the diversity and everything we've been talking about. And that's kind of how the book just is laid out. It's kind of simple. I tried not to have the emotions be too jagged from one story to the next. I tried to have kind of just a smooth flow, because there really are very tragic stories.
Sure.
There's an unhoused a guy like used to be known as a street bum, homeless guy. And then there's very silly stories, right? So it was challenging in that regard. We didn't want to have those like back to back. And so we didn't really think about it and kind of spread it out that way. But it really is kind of takes you on a tour of the city. I was mentioning
another thing this book does, I think, is, and it's going to be like 216 pages, I believe, maybe even more. But like there's 51 stories in here. And I feel like sometimes you'll read 51 stories and be like, okay, enough already. I'm done. Good, thanks. But I feel like what this book does is it begs for more. You're going to be like, oh my God, I've just opened the floodgates. I need to read.
Well,
I want to go experience New York.
But I know that this is the kind of book. This is something where you're going to take 3 or 4. Maybe you take 3 or 4 at a time and you come back. But it's something you're going to come back to. Like
when you do 3 or 4 like that, it kind of simulates like a day in the city.
Yeah,
a day of like the random different events as you're walking around. I think Dean has mentioned After Hours, that film as well, and like the randomness of what a day in New York can be with just 3 or 4 stories. And then
my problem with the New York City right now, and it was the problem I had with Chicago, which is why one of the reasons why I left to go to New York, was everywhere I go, I think of what used to be there. I've used up the old city, but I have a hard time incorporating the new city. If you were to walk with me down Houston Street, from the Lower East Side to the Village, to Greenwich Village, you would slug me halfway through, probably right in front of the Puck building, which is a good place. Because I'd say, there used to be a great deli over there. There used to be,
Yeah,
I
mean,
I've taken over, Mike. I've taken over because New York, for me, I've come end of May, I'll be 59, so I've experienced it for all my life. It's not the New York I grew up with. It's not the New York you grew up with.
That's right.
And like that's why I mentioned earlier when I said Veselka went back to 24 hours. It was always 24 hours. There's a lot of places that are doing now. WoHop closes at like 9 or 10. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense to me. I never went there before midnight. So like what's going on, and like we barely have diners. Pizza slices are $5 now. Like it's not. I don't know who's supposed to live here anymore.
Wait a moment. Yes, pizza slices are $5, but if you want to wrestle the rat,
then you got a new story.
It's interesting because
to put a plug in too, I would say if you spend any time outside of New York, however, and maybe LA could be an exception to this, or maybe Chicago, like there's still fewer chain stores here, even though they've moved in. There's no question about it. But the fact that you can still, there's locally owned businesses, like they still are here. They're
you know what? It makes me think like that they don't have the spirit of New York, the new businesses. I'm not a pot smoker. I don't, whatever. I tried it a couple times in college and it just puts me to sleep. So I don't do it. But all the pot stores that open up are the worst looking places I've ever seen. They're so not New York. These brightly lit, corny looking spaces that only last for however long. And then half of them get shuttered because they were illegally opened anyway, Right. And you see all these dispensaries and it's horrible, And then there's like the healthy, naturally delicious food places that look also cartoonish and lame. And like, there's just no grit anymore. There's no sense of this New York City streets, Yeah,
it's beginning to look safe. It's beginning to look
safe. Healthy. That's a great way of putting it.
New York has nothing to do with those values. New York is getting out there, doing it, using your own resources and finding the resources you need and persevering. And that's what I hope your book's all about.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of it. I mean, there's a comic story drawn by Jen Ferguson in here that I just looked at that looks fantastic.
Written by J.G. Thirlwell and takes place in Dumbo, and it's pretty startling, the story.
It is. I was enthralled. Let me know if there's something you guys want me to put up here, and I'll put it up. But I do want for people who are watching and haven't paid attention, in the comments section of wherever you're watching this, there is a link to the Kickstarter. We still need some work to get this funded. I have all the confidence in the world it's going to happen. But everybody, please, this is a book you are definitely going to want to have. So it's there. You can go to Kickstarter and look for Real Comics.
Real Life Comix.
Real Life Comix.
I'll bet you the four of you could say this in unison, but I'm the one who doesn't know. What's the cutoff date?
May 8th.
May 8th at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern. Yep.
Yeah, 12 Eastern.
Noon Eastern. Yeah.
Noon Eastern. Yeah.
Not a few weeks, but we're gonna get it. We're gonna get there. I think 14 days or something like that.
Just a couple more schwitzes away, and then we'll be all set.
Perfect.
Oh man.
Sherry wants one. So one of the things I wanted to talk about with you guys, and we've never really had this conversation, Dean, but what makes comics with an X versus comics with a CS?
I think almost everything Eli publishes is comics with an X.
Well, that's
if that makes sense. In fact, this book we're doing, which is In Spirit Comics with an X, might be his most commercial book in a way. What do you think, Eli?
Yeah, I think the same. I mean, it's definitely got to have an underground feel. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be sold out of a baby carriage on a San Francisco side street or whatever, but it like definitely, it has to have that underground feel. It's I don't, I want to say like black and white and gritty, but I don't think it has to be that anymore either. I just think it has to be kind of like the maddest of Mike's was saying earlier. You get it and you just build it from the ground up with whatever resources you can, the time you find to like put into that comic, and you're doing it all from your brain, that you're not like doing Batman or it's not Batman, it's Dark Man, it's he's Mouse Man, you didn't like take one of these, not archetypes or tropes, because everybody uses those, but I mean, you're not just making like another Spawn or Image team with a guy with a metal arm or something like that. It's like you have this strange, weird idea and you just get it out there by your bootstraps. And, you know, you kick the CS aside and you put the X there, and that's how you know.
Wait a second. I was about to pitch you my guy with the middle arm comic.
Shit. Well, maybe if it comes from you, what does he do?
It'll
with the
definitely
metal arm?
be alternative.
Maybe if it isn't really metal, you know.
Yeah.
That the distinction between the two was critical to my development in comics. The first, I mean, I'm a comics fan since, you know, the womb, but the first published comic book I ever worked on was an underground. It was this was 1969. It had already been tight with guys like Skip Williamson and Jay Lynch, you know, my brothers in Chicago. And this was a funder for the conspiracy trial that I got Abby Hoffman to actually pay for. He pulled out $1,000 bill. The only time in my life I ever
hang on, Doug. Hang on. We got more to talk.
$1,000 bill.
$1,000 bill.
Yeah.
Doug just got very excited.
Yeah, take some notes here. You'll like this.
I planted this, and this was coming.
And he paid for it because Abby liked comics. He was particularly an Iron Man and Thor fan. Wow. Not a lot of people know that, but we spent hours talking about that, and that surprised the hell out of me. So by the time I was, you know, physically in comics, though, the underground comics of the late 60s and early 70s, they had gone. Most of the people who were involved with them had moved on to their own work. So if you're talking about a certain moment in time, then the X is really critical. But when I started doing comic books, and doing it for a while, and then we did this book called Wasteland over at DC. And I was able to bring in all my old underground comics sensibilities and see if we can merge the two. And I think we did a really, really good job of it. And I'm saying that only because we're doing a panel about it in Ithaca on Saturday, and I'm just warming up to it right now. But if you go back and look at that, you know, compared to like Greg Iron's work or I think there's so many Spain Rodriguez's work, it's like the next generation. And to me, comic books is a storytelling form, and comics helped move it out of the 1950s.
Totally. And actually, that's kind of my origin story. I was, you know, a little bit of Superman, a little bit of Batman, Archie, that my mom made sure I read. And at 10 years old, I got exposed to Crumb, and it blew my brain, you know, out. And so it kind of learned early on that comics with an X, you know, and what it was about, and just that comics could be about sex and drugs and, you know, and a amorous cat, you know, like Fritz the cat, etc. Sure. And so it really kind of just changed my trajectory. I'm still really not a superheroes fantasy person, unfortunately. Of the trio, I lag behind. Like I don't even like register on the Geiger scale for that one. I'm with Eli and Dean. So it's while the cover is too a bit sort of mainstream of the book, I would say, you know, that was also Peter and Maria. They're just such skilled, you know, artists. They did a book called In Perpetuity, where the cover just kind of blew me away. It was actually Hollywood, the Hollywood Hills, and I've gotten to know Maria a little bit at the cons, and just I wonder if she would ever consider, you know, doing a book with us or doing the cover. And they were really into it, and so and they really like the idea of the Flatiron, and so it's I said with inside it's comics definitely with an X, but I was also thinking about bookstores, not leaning on comic shops, and I wanted to keep working with Eli, and while Wait, you know, didn't sell super well, I wanted to bring him something that we just knew had a shot at really being a winner. So
your book looks like every bookstore in Manhattan, certainly, and most likely everyone in the boroughs would actually put it up in the window for a while.
Yeah.
From a marketing standpoint, you couldn't have done a better job in terms of selling books in New York. And people who aren't in New York, who are, if they're familiar with Flatiron Building, they know what you're talking about, so you're fine. If they don't know, it's a building.
Well,
So
we're
you're
going to
fine.
market heavy in Florida as well, because
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, but one of the reasons why, and then I'll wrap, is the X. Like, I don't remember we ever thought of comics, COMICS. I think it was always with an X. But that's the tension between that cover art and the idea that these are alternative underground comics. And I listen, when I think of the X, comics with an X, I do think of Crumb. I do think of 1960s head shop comics and all that underground stuff. And then I do wonder in 2026 terms, what is a comics with an X comic book anymore? And then I just throw it back in your lap, Mike. Like, is American Flag a comics with an X? I don't think so. But what's the difference between alternative and independent? Because we always hear indie alt, and it's always basically the same. But what is the difference if there is a difference?
They're just words. Flag, I think, and for those of you out there in the ether, Dean worked on Flag, but American Flag might have been the most significant merger of those influences that I can think of off the top of my head. I think that if you look back on history, you'll see things begin to evolve, and they evolve in a lot of different ways. I mean, we got Timothy Truman out of that whole Jackson thing, and Jack Jackson, great artist, great writer. We got mainstream artists who grew up being formed by the undergrounds, by the comics with an X, and then they got into the business. Well, if you get into the business, even today, and you also want to pay your rent, you're going to flirt with the mainstream because they have the money, and maybe it'll help you get a reputation, and you can go off and do your own, which is happening, which is wonderful. So in that sense, the underground comics, more than anything else in my mind, and there were precedents, started the creator-owned movement, the creator-owned sentiment, the "this is my shit, get off my shit" attitude that I think every 19-year-old should have. So,
and I would say, Eli, how many employees do you have?
How many employees do I have?
Yeah.
I actually have 2 now.
2. That's comics with an X.
There you go.
I mean,
are you one of the 2?
Am I one of the? No, 3, including me.
There's
actually,
3 people
that are on a payroll.
I thought it was 2.
I mean,
that's why I asked.
there is that too, but like to follow up on Dean's point, there are plenty of people making comic books that are comics. One of the things we started talking about, you guys were there, we were talking about, some of the financial issues going on in some of the publishers today. And the issue is finding a way for people to get the comics that can be published. There are avenues through, corporate publishers of making your comics and getting paid for it, and how, people like Dean and Eli who just like, we're gonna figure out a way, and they're not gonna go that route. That's a different path, but there are plenty of comics, I think, that are being created and coming out today that are in the spirit, if not 100% comics with an X. Free Planet is in that realm, and we all know Aubrey, and that's the type of thing. And for me, it was that first copy of Heavy Metal that I got, and I was like, this is I like this. This is even better, and and I don't remember what it was, but there were boobs in it. Don't worry about it.
It was Corbin's Den, the big swinging purple penis. I think that
It could have been that.
Well, Corbin was sort of that transitional force from the undergrounds to mainstream, and also corrupting mainstream along the way. And he made that segue through Warren magazines, through Jim Warren, which was probably the best place in the world for him to do that at that moment in time. And I mean, this is the guy who did full color work over Will Eisner's black and white Spirit work and made it happen. And you're looking at that and you're going, this is Richard Corbin's work. I remember him from Den,
Yeah. To me, it was liberatory ranks of rocks. It was like, oh my God, what am I? And then I really loved, and I've met him. Is his name Paul Kirshner, the guy who did the bus?
Yeah. Worked with he worked in Wally Wood's studio.
Wow. Okay.
So super nice guy too.
Oh, I love the bus. God,
the other thing about New York and comics is the comic shop. Right? Is there anything in there in the book, kind of tying that? Because I remember, because it's different when you're, in the suburbs. I grew up for you guys, for Doug and I'm not sure if Eli know, but I grew up in Jersey. Like I grew up in the Shore and in North Jersey. But I've spent a lot of my life, and I worked in New York for 12 years, and or more, I spent a lot of my life in New York. There's a difference between going to a comic shop in New York than going to a comic shop in, Ocean County.
Doug, is that you? Yeah. Turn down your volume with your ding dong.
Is it me?
I
don't know who it is, but it's dinging. No, but Bob, you're right, man. When I went to, my early comic shops was West Side Comics on 86th Street or 87th, I forget, where a guy named 86. Dave Tomer, 86, Dave Tomer ran the shop. And I remember that was my first and only encounter with Dave Sim, an alternative cartoonist, or independent alternative comics with an X, with Cerebus and whatnot. And actually, I have a quick funny story. I remember going in there one day with my best friend Mike Houston, and there was Mark Hamill, and we're like giant Star Wars fans. And there's Mark Hamill with his kid in a carriage, and Mark Hamill's looking through comics. I'm like, Mark Hamill reads comics? Luke Skywalker loves comics? Awesome. And then his kid drops his toy, right? And you see the kid start reaching out of his little carriage, and Mike says, "Use the Force." And I left the shop. I had to leave. I couldn't deal.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. I got a quick story for you about West Side Comics. It starts with a question. Are you aware that there was a dungeon underneath West Side Comics?
No.
If you walk behind the counter there, and you lift up the trap door, there's a little stairway that went to their, I guess they called it a basement. But in point of fact, if you put anything on top of that door, it was a dungeon. And this is where the staff and a couple of very select, well-known customers would go to smoke weed back in the late 70s.
Dave Tomer was smoking pot all the time. He'd open the doors at 12 and you just get high.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So finally it occurs to me, devious little bastard that I am, that Dave would actually sell me some weed. And he would even put it on my tab, and I would pay for it with an American Express card and then take it off my taxes. That was a wonderful experience.
That's America.
Comics is all about subversion.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
But
well, I am.
The other place I go to all the time was called Funny Business, and it was a therapist named Roger ran it, and his good buddy Bill Mantlo, who lived nearby, would go to the shop all the time. And that was another place where you come in and commiserate. And that's where, we don't have that in our book, the where people would meet up at the comic shop and have those discussions, like we were talking about Staten Island earlier, and, Evan Dorkin worked at Jim Hanley's Universe,
Yeah.
and
Right
they still have a store in Staten Island. And I went to it recently, earlier this year with Vito Del Sante, who
off the Staten Island.
Also worked at Jim Hanley's Universe
Railroad.
That's right. That's right.
My New York comic experience is kind of the opposite. It wasn't an underground, like, I don't mean underground, but it wasn't like kind of the smaller shop. Me coming from small town Maryland, for me, it was all about going to Midtown Comics, because
Midtown,
I
first time you go to
never
Midtown, it's totally different than any other comic shop you've been to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you have the St. Mark's place.
Exactly.
Right?
And I mean,
Mark's
the comics, that place is amazing.
That's why where I first saw The Verdict, which was a miniseries I did with Martin Powell in 1987. And I remember I felt sanctioned by comics because you could buy my comic. It was on the racks at St. Mark's Comics, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a cartoonist.
Now, how did it feel to actually see that the first time?
I still, to this day, just like, it's weird because what's weird about it, Mike, is for many years I've been lucky to be published by many different publishers and worked on many different comics. And in 2023, when I basically quit comics to do my deep cut comics, what we've talked about in the SquadCast many times, all my little Kickstarters that I've done. In fact, I'm holding my hand, Antimatter, right now. This will be going out to people, but this is not in stores.
Why don't you just bring me my copy?
Oh, absolutely.
You can save a couple of bucks.
Thank you very much. But yeah, so I'm not in the store, and I've lost those optics, because you have the Kickstarter backers, and then you can buy it from me at a table or order it from me online directly, Venmo me kind of thing and send me your address. But I'm not in stores, and I feel like I'm missing something, but also the business of it doesn't make sense right now, because I'm doing comic books. If I was doing a book with a spine, I could maybe try to figure out how to have that relationship again with stores, because I've become a self-publisher in a lot of ways. And this is stuff that I talked to Eli about, like, what do you do? Like, or I've discussed it with other, publishers. And I think, big corporations keep warning us to not work for big corporations because they don't care about people. They care about the bottom line and money, and IPs or whatever that they can get. So like, I think more and more as people are getting fired, or Disney is, 86ing 1,000 staff members, that built and made, this mountain, that they've all climbed, and then just disregard the people. I think more and more people are going to take that lesson and realize we have the tools. We've been given the tools to publish ourselves, But the thing is, I need to get distributed. It needs to make sense for me to create a price point that I can be in stores again.
So let's talk about that a little bit with Eli. I want to bring you up 1 second. We talked about what we mentioned earlier. It looks good in a book store. What are your thoughts about what we're going to do with this once it's funded, printed? Are you looking for additional distribution? Like, this is the perfect example of something where you can do the funding and then turn it out and then increase the profits, or so that you can make more of it. And that's the thing about cartoonists and comics with an X, is that you constantly want to sell what you have so you can make more. Like, that's all it is. So I can make more comics, not so I can make more money, but I want to make more comics. And that's the whole
right.
That's the rat race and the treadmill of comics with an X.
Musicians get that.
Having been both at this point, I doubly get it here. But I absolutely think we're gonna check out the further distribution. You have to run this, tread this line when you're doing a Kickstarter, so that people help you fund this initial run without being like, oh, I'll just get it in the bookstore later. I'll just pick it up later when it's at my local shop or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you got to get it right now to help us get it started, get it off its legs, and get it into people's hands so that people can see it and love it. But yes, I did just get full distribution for Cosmic Lion Productions, half through Prana and Lunar and Universal. Prana is like an aggregator for people who don't know. They aggregate for smaller publishers like myself and get us into this bigger company after Diamond. Really effed us in the A, I'll say. If I may use
I prefer to say just went bluey.
yeah,
The guy who started that, Tina and I will be seeing in a few days. So, and Bob, I'm sorry, Bob, I keep on locking you out of this.
I'll be there.
He'll be there. It's a different. It was a different monster by the time I think it effed my A. But anyway, we do have Prana now, and then we also signed with IPG recently.
Oh,
thank you.
It's a white piece of paper. Oh, that's it. Yeah.
That's clear.
I see this every day. Whitney drew Bob a while ago, and it's just it's incredible.
That's Bob. I thought that was
Bob.
the guy from Esquire.
No, this is a Bob Harrison by Whitney Matheson that I look at every day for a few years now. It's so good.
I think she's giving Sean a run for his money.
Sean Von Gorman,
yes,
who's in the book with Chris Miskevich.
Listen, there is a Cecil Castellucci, Chris Cassano story.
Oh, it's so good. Show some of it, man. Please show some. This is. I'm gonna
scroll. Man. I'll scroll. I don't want to keep. Nobody's.
Oh, you have the book.
No one's gonna screen grab. Show as much.
No screen grabbing, but like it's
nice.
You got
Jennifer Hayden. You got Jennifer Hayden.
Yeah,
that's Pat Palermo, who I met at Yaddo. He's incredible.
Great. And another part of the attention to detail from Doug is like black and white or color, black and white. Like
this is the Cecil Chris one.
That's a spread. Those are spreads.
Oh, fantastic!
Right, yeah.
Like first of all, Cecil's a huge friend. I love her. I love seeing her write anything, but seeing Chris's art, and I haven't seen in a really long time. Very, very happy to see that.
That's Sarah Grillo.
Shout out Sarah Grillo.
And you're right. Here's Whitney's.
Mm-hmm. No, that's not Whitney.
That's not Whitney's. Whitney's was earlier. But again, the concept of there are so many different styles, but they are not. I think that what you did here, Doug, is really smart in the fact that this is the veto piece. They're not the same style back to back, but it's
Peter
not,
Ostowski.
and it works.
Oh, right there. You see, that's Moby. You just saw that's Moby.
This is Moby.
Yep, he did a one pager. We got Moby.
And I want to mention that page you just passed, the little sort of almost blank page. That's Gideon Kendall, my comics partner, and Wait It Gets Worse. He's incredibly talented. And while the book could have just been 200 solid pages of comics, it did feel like it just needed a little room to breathe.
Sure.
And so we had about 12 of those, I think. So they're not chapter headings. Nothing, the themes don't change or anything. The picture is not indicative of what's coming up next. It's really just to try to compliment.
No, but as I was sliding through, I definitely noticed that time for a breath type of thing, because you get through
it's a beat. It's it's timing, and that's part of every communications medium, and it's usually the most critical part of every communications medium. So you're putting in those beats. I gotta establishes a rhythm.
Absolutely.
I got to be careful because there's some stuff in here we shouldn't be posting.
Yeah, that's great feedback.
But it's good. No, it's so good. It like that was, for people who just were looking at that, you get that kind of a reaction.
Thanks, Sherry.
And it's just a really great collection, and Mike talks about it all the time, how having anthologies and putting a lot of things together in one spot is just, it's a perfect way and a perfect homage to the medium. Like, it's meant to be that way. Mm-hmm. When comic books were first coming out, it was never just a single 22 pages, one story. It was several stories in those issues back in the day. And then that lasted a long time.
Yep.
That lasted a long, long time
Amazing
until
fantasy.
you know.
What was that? Did somebody just fart?
I don't know. I was just
My
looking
chair
around.
squeaks. I have an old chair.
Oh,
Mine's your squeaks.
Do it again.
I
Or else
farted
you
too.
really
now.
farted. No.
as long as it's your chair and not you, then you're okay. You're doing okay.
But you know, it's such a great
Yeah.
you know, collection of stuff. I
Well, you
I
were
do
talking
wanna
about the
give-
tradition of anthologies, right, Bob? Like,
yeah.
to me, that is one of my favorite things, isn't the anthology? And I feel like there's more and more coming out, believe it or not. In fact, if I may, another Cosmic Lion effort, Times
I
Like
saw
These, is a protest comic that was created by Tony Wolf in a pretty quick, like a month,
6
maybe a
weeks.
month and a half,
Yeah.
6 weeks. And it's like 80 pages. And it debuted at BIX, the Brooklyn Independent Comic Showcase, this weekend.
It's a
I
good
was
chance
also at
Tony's
Kingston.
watching. Hey, Tony.
Yeah, if Tony's watching. This is
And
this is a Bill Sienkiewicz cover.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Tony's
It is
mad
for
at me. We
sale
have to
on
get
the
him on the
Cosmic
show.
Lion Productions website right now. Although
Yes.
the
I did
USPS
see that.
chose to lose the package from Tony, I think maybe they're trying to suppress our
really?
voice here. So come on, use USPS.
Oh
Trying to
man.
suppress our voice. No, I don't know.
There's a lot of this is a Tony Wolf cover. I mean image right here.
That was gonna be the cover until
That was gonna be the cover. You know.
I did a comic about my mother's protest work. She's been protesting since back in the day. I was proud.
I think
you
my
for
mom burned her
Thank
bra
you for
back in
making
the
me
day.
feel even older. I appreciate that.
Yes, I said that she burned her draft bra was a joke I used to make.
That's
Oh,
Gideon.
yeah.
Gideon.
It's Gideon.
There's Gideon. Yeah, he's the man. Gosh, Gideon is so good.
The Megadeth.
I mean, they listen. I have 3 anthologies in my hand. I have this one. I got the Real Life Comics, Antimatter. Like, it doesn't stop, man. It's great stuff. And you know, and what's really cool is, like, if you're working on one long story, let's say 200 pages, you know, and this book is 216 pages, but you're asking people to do 1 to 5 pages, you can shrink the time, the deadline of getting that stuff together, because people are just coming in with a bunch of pages, you know, at the same time, you know, and it's just the arrangement of it all, you know. And again, I attribute a lot of the design of the book to Doug Latino, because he had more of a vision of what the book would look like. To me, I was more concerned with the stories, or well, as concerned as Doug, you know. But that was where I was.
Format too, like, is more people these days. As much as you know, it was huge back, you know, when Mad first started, or you know, any of those EC classics. But now in this world of scrolling your phone, you know, quick, short attention span stuff, an anthology is perfect to bring people into this thing, because you can read the story and then you're on to the next one, or you can be like, I don't really like this story, and then go to the next one without, you know, throwing the whole comic away, or being like, I don't like this. Well, it's just like, I'll go to the next one and listen like an album. You know, I don't like this song, let's try the next one. Or, you know, so it's just easier and keeps you in and entertained.
You see, I don't think there is an anthology ever published that I have read that is of like 64 pages or more, where there wasn't at least one story in there where I said, wow, this really sucks.
Yeah.
And I didn't care, because I was on to the next one.
Exactly.
It's the sum total of the experience.
Right.
You know?
Well, and then part of that is like for me with Mad, when I was a kid, I didn't read the movie parodies as much because it was too much reading. I just wanted Don Martin and Sergio and Spy vs. Spy or whatever. But the older I got, the more I would be like, I need that.
Yeah.
I need to see what Mad said about that movie, or I need to, you know, go back and read. So it gives you an opportunity. Like, I've read that Mad 1,000 times, but wait a second, actually, I haven't read Teen Rage Moolah Nitwit Turtles because it was too many words, you know?
Right, sure. But then you go back and you read it and you're like, holy shit.
Oh my God,
I read
I
this
get all the
hours
jokes. Yeah.
I like that. Nitwit Turtles.
That was the title for sure. I never forgot that one.
What was
Every
What was that one?
editor in the comics business, every editor, when that book was first finished, was asked if we would like to publish it. And every editor, including me, said no. And they said, well, screw you. We're going to do it on our own. And now they're like quadrillionaires.
Damn.
So,
Well, one of them is.
Amazing.
well, yeah, that's true. So I remind myself all the time, Will Eisner, as an editor, rejected Superman.
Wow.
Yeah,
So-
I know.
It's crazy.
Well,
It
that
might
actually
not
makes
be the
sense when
same,
you.
though.
You know, it's funny you say Will Eisner, and that was always in the back of my mind with this book. Like, and I don't know, we actually captured the Will Eisner vibe. Maybe a few times. Maybe Will Eisner with an X. You know, like comics with an X. Will Eisner.
Will Eisner.
You know.
Well,
Will Eisner.
the underground community back in the early 70s, through Dennis Kitchen's help, made Will sort of the transition point between X and CS.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because Will took a step back, going back to all of his old storytelling and oldest values, and said, that's what I want to do. I'm going to help these kids do that. And then all of a sudden, people started getting interested in the spirit. Jules Pfeiffer helped a lot about that. And Will's drawing again. And you can see some of that looseness of the undergrounds right there in Will Eisner's work. What goes around comes around.
Yeah.
And
But also, he was like a champion of format, like reformatting the Sunday paper, whatever it is. It was like a 6 or
Right.
7 page pullout with the spirit. You know, basically being one of the inventors of the graphic novel format. You know, he was in the Warren. Didn't Warren or Dennis Kitchen republish his Spirit comics with new cover art? You know,
It wasn't Kitchen, but yeah, it was
or
Jim Warren.
something in the magazine format. You know,
Yes,
like,
yes, it was one of the Warren magazines. I actually have an original of one of the cover sketches.
Oh,
that,
nice.
Will did. No, it's given to me by Will. That's the nicest part.
Yeah. No, I remember my buddy Sean Smith turned me onto Will Eisner and the Spirit. And that's another thing, like going back to the conversation in the comic shop, would be you'd meet your friends, but everybody brought something different to the table, you know, because that guy was in the X-Men, I was in the Fantastic Four, my other friend was into the Avengers, but then we're discovering Harvey Picar's American Splendor and Chester Brown's Yummy Fur and all the alternatives, you know, and heavy metal, like, you know, boobs, you know, naked people, like what the
Yeah.
hell?
Crazy.
That
Who
gets us
knew they
back
could
to
do that?
Richard Corbin, doesn't it?
Perfect.
I think Richard Corbin invented boobs.
I think so. So.
Quote of
I
the
do
cat.
want to. I'm not gonna put this on the screen, but I love the first story in the book. I love who's.
Cynthia Von Bueller.
Well, I was not going to spoil it, but
Oh,
thank you.
sorry.
So Cynthia Von Bueller is the first story, and I think it's perfect.
We'll cut you out in the edit.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't edit. This is live.
Oh no, we should give love to all our contributors if we can.
Oh,
you know, like,
absolutely.
we're very happy. And again, Doug chose that to be the story to open the book, and he's right.
well, yeah,
I think it's a great story to open the book. I think when people get this, they're gonna be so hooked and like they're not gonna put it down.
Yeah.
that's so nice for you to say that, because when I did begin to do the layout, I had sort of sat down to sort of go through everything that we had at that time, which was, you know, probably 75% of the book. And about 5 stories in, I came across that story and just felt right away like this is it. And
Yeah.
I agree. Like it's whimsical, it's amazing art. It's kind of questionably, is it really true? You know, did she really you know, it's like all those things about it just make it so special.
It could be. It's a New York story.
Yeah, exactly.
That's perfect. It's a great thing. I do want to give you an opportunity, Doug. I mean, I know we kind of mentioned this, but so did you know that Mike worked for Abby Hoffman during were you familiar with his resume
No.
there?
No, I did not.
I worked for Abby for 3 years.
Wow. Well, he was a hero of mine. I was kind of young to be there in the prime time. Although I remember my parents watching Walter Cronkite the day that he went to the stock exchange and dropped all the dollar bills. Like that made the national news. Yeah. And then now fast forward like 10 years later or whatever, when I was in college, I actually wrote a story about this in Wait It Gets Worse, but I went to see Abby Hoffman debate Jerry Rubin, who had sold out and become a yuppie. And I tell the story there. When I got there late, the place was packed. They were on a road tour, sort of exploiting their celebrity and their history, right? Trying to make some money in the mid 80s. And I ended up sitting right up front at Abby Hoffman's feet. And he was doing his thing, as he spoke so kind of rapidly, at times. And a droplet of spit flew out of his mouth and landed right on my cheek. And I was thinking, like, I'm one with Abby Hoffman. I was just so enamored with him. And I was like, I'm not going to wash my cheek again. But of course I did.
Let me add something to that. During the conspiracy trial, and I was on the staff of that, we had a rule, those of us who were like 19, 20, 21 years old and were guys, that we would not sleep with anybody who'd ever slept with Abby. For one reason and one reason alone, we didn't want to get the shot later. So if he got a little bit of saliva on you and you survived, good for you, pal. So,
I didn't have.
You also have to understand that
just on the skin, right? I didn't hit my lip or my eye or anything.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It's so weird, Doug, because your story in the book is similar to what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. Another starstruck Gay Talese. It's a story that revolves around Gay Talese. I always debate how much I should get into it.
Go for it. Just go for it.
Definitely an encounter, one of those encounter stories. I wrote a 4-page story about a 20-second encounter on an elevator, right? But because I had to give some backstory. Yeah, who I knew today's reader might not have no idea who Gay Talese is, even though he's still alive and walking around New York. He's like 94 or something now.
But he was really?
Yeah, wow. He was promoting a book that he actually got in a little trouble with. This was like 2016. It was called The Voyeur. He reported on a guy who was had a motel that he spied on. He had access to every room to watch what was going on in the room, and he actually brought Talese up in his catwalk to do that. And so this was before the Me Too movement, but it was kind of just thought it was creepy that Talese did that. Anyway, he was promoting the book. I shook his hand, and it was just one of those times. And this is, I have the utmost respect for the man. I love him. I've read a lot of his stuff, but it happened. I mean, it's just like, it's going to be, you got to believe me or not. I shook his hand, and it was really just sticky and gooey. Sometimes when you shake somebody's hand,
a clammy hand,
kind of. And of course, I wanted to be respectful, And he was really kind of touched that I recognized him, because I said, "Oh, Mr. Talese, so nice to meet you." And of course, I could tell he was, happy that I recognized him. And that's kind of how the story begins. And then I go in to tell the history of his probably most renowned piece of journalism. And he's really credited with starting the new journalism. That story, Frank Sinatra had a cold, or has a cold, I always forget. This was back in the days when everybody knew Kennedy was sleeping with Marilyn Monroe or whatever, and they didn't report about it, right? This was a behind-the-scenes story of the tour of Frank Sinatra when he had a cold, and it really just threw the whole tour off balance, and he ended up doing some real reportage on that. And so it's still taught in journalism schools today, apparently. It was an Esquire story. But now, again, fast forward, a couple days after that fateful meeting, I came down with a cold. So you can't make
slimy little hands.
Yeah. So, and I've done a little bit of research, and I didn't include.
Now we know why Frank Sinatra had the cold.
What's that?
Now we know why Frank Sinatra had that.
Yeah, so that
It was
guy
Jay's
could
fault
sell
the whole
books.
time.
But to Gay Talisa's defense, of course, we don't really know, where I got that cold. And I should have maybe included this in the story. Did you know this, you guys? Like on average, like an adult into their 70s, they potentially have infected over 1,000 people with their cold. Like they've passed along their cold to as many as 1,000 people. So
And proud of it.
Right. Eli's getting worried.
Right. So anyway,
Can I get it through microphones? No.
Apparently
this started the debate between Dean and I too, of just to bring it back to, like it's an encounter. Is there really a story there? And
Listen,
and so
it is a story because it's a New York story. That everybody has a New York story. Listen, I rode an elevator with Annie Lennox, and that's a story I tell because
that's cool.
She was
had
just in the
wonderful
elevator.
encounters.
I got in the elevator. She was in the elevator. We rode up to the 30th floor. I got out. She kept going.
Okay, but this is where we would debate. Okay, so where's the story, right?
Well, there isn't. That's not really a story.
So no, I know. So that's where if you would pitch it to me,
there is in my head.
In your head, it's just the thrill.
I could tell a story. I could tell a story about all the things that happened in those moments.
Well, and that's what we'd be pushing for you to do. And that's why with Doug, I was like, well, give Gay Talese context because I don't really know who he is. I've heard of him. I didn't know all this stuff. And the reader may feel the same way. But then also, he does, the idea that a few days later, Doug gets a cold from the famous guy who wrote the famous story, and then it even has a funny little kind of ending, your story. So that was part of like trying to figure out these kind of encounter stories, like I've had many encounters, but I don't know if I would ever committed to being into a comic book,
Well, you
really
just told us the one about John Amos.
Well, yeah, really.
See, that would have worked. That would have been a good encounter story.
I'll tell you, I've had some wonderful encounters with people in elevators, and that's partially because I worked for Warner Brothers for all those years, but also, I guess the first one of those has a direct comics connection, but it didn't happen. That happened later. I was late at my lawyer's office. He and I were planning something or whatever, and the snow was just starting. So I thought, well, it's like 9:00. I should get home before we get socked in. And so I'm running down, and the elevator, it's like elevators in the Flatiron building. They're really slow. And I heard a little ding, and I saw a guy walk in, and he held back the door open for me because I asked him to. And I got in the elevator, and I turned to thank him, and it was Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
And Ali just breaks out in the biggest fucking smile you've ever seen because he thought that was hilarious. I know that happened to him all the time. The funny thing is, his lawyer was next door to my lawyer. And I was able to use that connection to help promote the Superman versus Muhammad Ali comic book just a couple of years later. So that was
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
That is a New York story for sure.
Well, it's a Chicago story in this case. When you do a Chicago book,
there you go. And that does beg the question. One of the things we were talking about in terms of the title we're trying to figure out the title. So if this becomes a series, it's Real Life Comix, with the caveat being only New York Volume 2, only in Chicago, Detroit, Florida, LA, whatever. Or the other idea is to give it a theme instead of being geographical, so we can open it up even more,
Listen, I love this.
I would do a few more geographicals before you went into themes, because you need to establish what it is that you're trying to do in terms of atmosphere.
Yep.
Marketing crap.
Looking forward to that nice row of Real Life Comix go on my shelf.
Yeah, right.
I want that. I think that you guys are doing a great job. I think this is going to be something everybody's going to want to have. And again, if you haven't paid attention, in the comment section where this is, where you're watching this, there is a link that takes you right to the Kickstarter page. There's also a link to Cosmic Lion Productions. You can get some of the stuff we talked about earlier. We got to wrap up, but this has been So amazing, guys. Before we let you go, what is the story that you want people to read that you can't wait for people to read that's in the book? Each one of you.
Oh man,
Interesting. Well, I'll go first since I have one kind of locked and loaded that I've said a few times, but Willie Mendez's story is really amazing. Oh, Doug, did I take yours?
Yeah.
No, I really like hers. I mean, it's so cool. I'm a big music guy, and it's about Dylan and mentions Grateful Dead and her connection with them, two favorite bands, and just how colorful and beautiful and amazing it is, and how lucky we are to have her in there. And just, you connected me with her, Doug, and, I went and hung out with her now and smoked weed with her. and it was really amazing, just amazing person and just experience working with her and her book. And so, yeah, for that, it's got to be Willie Mendez's book for me.
All right.
Are you ready,
Right.
Dean?
Oh, I have too many. It's
He's
too
flipping
many.
through.
Like Joe
Yeah,
Dater's
Doug.
story. Joe Dater has an incredible story.
I was thinking of Joe too.
I love Patrick Palermo's story. It goes all over the place. I mean, there's so many good stories in here.
I mean, yeah, there's so many.
It's Owner Tukel, a filmmaker. Danny Hellman's story alone.
Really good.
It's about him working at Screw Magazine and basically the life story of Al Goldstein. It's
Oh man.
incredible. Like Keith Knight has a great story. Bob Fingman has a great story about when he was young, a little kid, when he was Dondi. Basically, he looked like Dondi. But like a really interesting one to me was R. Sikoriak. Bob Sikoriak draws a story in his style, because if you remember, he always is copying or aping or mirroring other styles when he does his parodies and satires. And he had to tell a true life story about him, and it's the origin of his carousels that he does throughout the years. Ariel Catan does an incredible story. I mean, James Green drew Wendy Blake, is that her name, right?
Yeah. Yep.
This story is crazy. And this kind of puts the X in comics, right? Doug?
Yes.
There's so many good ones in here. It's super difficult, like you said, Cecil Castellucci and Krista Cassano. Yeah.
I would add too that, it's been a thrill to work with some of the big names. I never dreamed I'd get a chance to do that at this point in my career. So to work with Drew, he was just very gracious and very
Drew
supportive
Friedman.
of what we're doing. To have Karen Green, do the preface.
We talked about Karen before you got on. I'm glad you mentioned her.
She had a lot of fun with her preface. The cover artist Peter and Maria Oy. Eli Newborgen is going to be doing a kind of a cool end paper treatment. We're going to actually plot all the stories on a map in the front of the book, so it's not in the copies that you guys are seeing now. So it's going to be a map of New York City with all the stories plotted out in the front, and then in the back it's going to have the back 25 or 26 stories. So there's a lot of cool little things like that. We wanted every page turn to be just have something special about it. There's a lot of text in the front of the book, but that's where Karen and Drew and Dean and I each have an essay. Eli has an essay in the book as well, so there's some text pages.
It's mostly prose, not many pictures in the book. It's mostly prose.
I was just going to
All
mention
the artists are punished with words.
Yeah.
Karen Green is so good. She runs the Columbia University Comics stacks.
Yes.
If comics had really gotten their start in caveman days, she would have one of those caveman paintings double bagged.
Oh yeah.
No question.
Right. But I was going to just throw out some new folks. Chris Gomez, beautiful story about his experience in art school. Sort of some, systemic sort of racism that he experienced there. Dean, you mentioned Wendy and James's story. This was about a young co-ed moving to New York for the first time, in love with the Spanish poet Garcia Lorca Garcia's, I forget, Federico Garcia Lorca, the Spanish poet. She ends up dating a guy who was in Lorca's, who lived in Lorca's dorm room. Like if there's not a New York story, that one might sum it really up as an incredible story. So she's a first-time comics writer. So and then we talked about Sarah Grillo before. I've worked with Sarah for a few years on Wait It Gets Worse, and she just really killed it with her story. And we didn't want to have a ton of COVID and some of the, you might expect those kinds of stories. She has the COVID story, and it's really just the tenor of her story, and the artwork is just incredible. So there's a lot of new things to discover as well, new creators.
Ronnie Sam has got a great story. Yeah, it's great. And thanks again for having us on and talking. I just wanted to, if we're wrapping it up, I don't know if you had any other questions or
No, we got.
I gotta pour out a little liquor to Prince, who died 10 years ago today. Prince is my favorite of all time. It's been 10 years. I can't believe that.
Yeah. You probably didn't see my jaw dropped.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
You said 10 years.
10
yeah,
years.
geez. Wow.
And I'm going to see you guys, Bob and Mike, at Ithacon. I'm going to be bringing my buddy Jeffrey Buran of Americans UK. Nice. He's got some comics. And I'm going to be on a Batman 66 panel. So
wow.
There you go.
You weren't even alive then.
No, but I drew 3 Batman 66 comics. So there you go.
Oh, okay. All right. You.
By the way, the trifecta. If I was to schedule me TV, it's Batman 66, original Star Trek, and Wild Wild West.
Yes.
Love that show.
Particularly the first season, which is in black and white and didn't get enough reruns because it was in black and white. It was brilliantly written. And of course, Michael Dunn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rick has joined the chat.
Oh my God, Rick.
Hey, Rick.
Rick has a great story.
Yeah, really good.
I can't wait
Rick
to see.
Was only a letterer when I remembered him as a kid, and then went on to become a great artist, great writer.
Yeah,
and
we have.
And actually, I think he's talking to Eli about something, but we'll see.
Wait a minute.
Hey, Rick.
So
did you call Bruzenak only an editor or a letterer?
Bruzenak is next level. Like he's that's outer space, Bruzenak. Like
okay.
I did not say
just
that.
Insulted all the others. Great.
No. I mean, listen. We all know how do you know a great letterer when you don't notice them?
Well, you'll notice Ken.
But you do notice Ken.
Yeah, and kind of. No.
And I just want to say again, thanks to Rick. He does have an incredible story in the book. It is one of my favorites. It's a crazy story when he was a cab driver, and it's just like he builds tension, and there's like great punchline, and of course the artwork is amazing and beautiful. And I don't think we invited you late. I think I hit you up pretty early, Rick, if that's what you were referring to. I'm pretty sure we hit you up early. So.
Well, Rick, thank you for joining us even indirectly on SquadCast. We appreciate that.
One of the things about doing the show is we do it once a week, and it's a lot of shows. This is episode 140 something or other, but there's we can never get everybody. And Rick and I have been talking about getting him on the show. We're gonna have to do that. We'll definitely have to make that happen.
He's got a lot of great stories. He would be a great guest. Yeah.
He's told me, that Mike had a big influence on him stepping out of just lettering. He felt very supported by Mike. I don't know if he's gonna pop in there, but yeah.
Oh shucks.
So. All right, so we gotta let you guys go. We know where it is. It's on Kickstarter. It's Real Life Comix, and you guys got to go back it. We got to get it up there. We got to get the backers up there and hire you guys. Dean, we'll see you in a couple of days in Ithaca. Eli, Doug, are you gonna be around anywhere? Anybody wants to go?
Heroes Con is the next big one for
We'll see you there.
Cosmic Lion Productions. Yeah, we've
We'll
got
be there.
almost 10
Yeah.
or 15 creators that are going to be there for that one.
Fantastic.
Eli,
You gonna come,
drop me a note when you start making the t-shirts from this book, okay?
Okay, all right, I will.
Awesome.
That
Yeah,
one should
and
be-
I'm working on Wait It Gets Worse issue number 7 after this, but we have still a long way to go with this book, right? Until it gets into bookstores in September, and so I'll be very focused on that now for the next several months.
Wow,
All right,
you can
guys.
hold the spot. Good.
Thank you so much.
Gentlemen,
Have a great
thank
night.
you. We
Thank you,
deeply
guys.
Looking forward to the
appreciate you
book.
being here.
Thank you all so much for having
Great
us.
to meet you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice seeing you.
Wrong one.
Wow. Yeah, I know. Well, it's your fault because you put Dean and me together on our show.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And,
All right,
you know, we just run with it. We'll make the ball and then run with it.
We're out of time. Thank you everybody for being here. Thanks so much for you guys participating in the chat and being around. We are going to be here every Tuesday night. If you're new to the SquadCast, go ahead and click follow or subscribe or whatever it is you're doing. We are here every Tuesday night. We have guests lined up for the next several weeks. Next week, Jeff Parker is going to be here. The following week, it'll be Matt Rosenberg. The following week, it'll be Cullen Bunn and more beyond that. So Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, Pop Culture Squadcast Live will be coming at you.
And you'll find it on YouTube and all those other dumb places that run us. And Bob and I and Dean will be at Ithacon this weekend. If you're in the neighborhood or you don't mind making a little beautiful drive, come on and join us. Say hi.
All right, everybody. We'll see you later. Read more comics. They're good for you.
All right. Thanks, folks.
This has been a production of the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?